We appreciate your patience, and we're running late, and we had a lot of student matters to do, and we have 3 new board members, so we'll be doing better as we go along, as we learn the ropes. So at this time, I would like to call the meeting to order, and I need a motion to return to open session.
Madam Chair, I move that we return to open session and adopt certification of closed session, personnel and student matters.
And I need a second for that.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, and Ms. Golson? I'm sorry, I started without you.
Certification of closed session. Whereas the Dinwiddie County School Board has convened a closed session on this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and whereas paragraph 2.2-3712 of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by the school board that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now therefore be it resolved that the Dinwiddie County School Board hereby certifies that to the best of each member's knowledge, only such business matters were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the school board. Dr. Elaine Pearson, District 1.
I certify.
Dwayne Walker, District 2.
I certify.
Barbara Pittman, District 3.
I certify.
Mary Benjamin, District 4.
I certify.
Jason Brown II, District 5.
I certify.
Madam Chair, all certify.
Thank you very much. At this time, we will have our representatives from Sunnyside to help us with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please stand and join me of saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. We may be seated. Ms. Golson, are there any amendments to the agenda?
No amendments.
Okay. We need a motion to approve.
I move that we adopt the agenda as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? And that motion carries. At this time, we participate in the annual reorganization of the school board to include adoption of code of ethics for the school board members, and that would be handled by Dr. Weston.
Okay, thank you. We'd like to start this evening with nominations for the chair of the school board for the calendar year 2024.
Madam Chair.
Or just Madam Superintendent.
Madam Superintendent, I nominate Barbara Pittman.
Okay, I have a nomination. Do I have other nominations for the board chair for the calendar year 2024?
I move that nominations be closed.
Thank you. We have a nomination. I need a second for the nominations to be closed.
Second.
Okay, we have a nomination and a second. Any
Call for a vote.
call for a vote? Okay, any, yes, no, okay, good. Any opposition to the vote? Hearing none, we'll move forward. So Mrs. Benjamin nominated, and the vote was closed by Dr. Pearson. And so all in favor of appointing Ms. Barbara Pittman as chair of the school board for the calendar year 24. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Hearing none. Ms. Pittman, you think I've never done that before. I am so sorry.
That's
for that.
usually one of our jobs, so you did that very well.
Yes, I can act like I've been here before.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. I'm turning back over, thank goodness, to Ms. Pittman as
Thank
the
you.
board chair. so
Thank
she
you
can
very
continue.
much, and I
Absolutely.
appreciate that. At this time, we will continue on with the reorganization. And Dr. Weston, do you have a recommendation for Deputy Board Clerk for the calendar year 2024?
I think you skipped the vice chair.
Oh, sorry, yep, that's important. You'd think I'd never been here before. At this time, the chair takes calls for nominations for vice chair for the calendar year 2024.
I nominate Mary Benjamin.
And we need a second. Second the motion.
I second that. Yeah.
Okay. Ms. Benjamin has been nominated and a second. Are there other nominations?
I move the nominations be closed.
The nominations have, I need a second for the nominations to be closed. Ms. Benjamin, can you second the nominations to be closed?
I second.
Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye for the nominations to be closed.
Aye.
All in favor of Ms. Benjamin being the vice chair signify by saying aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? And Ms. Benjamin is appointed as the vice chair. Thank you very much. And now, Dr. Weston, do you have a recommendation for the board clerk for the calendar year of 2024?
I do. I recommend Bonnie Golson.
Okay, we need a motion from Ms. Golson and a second.
I move that we accept that recommendation of Ms. Golson.
Okay, we have a motion
Second.
and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Thank you very much. And we move to the second sheet, and it's Dr. Weston, do you have any recommendations for the deputy board clerk for the calendar year 2024?
That is, I recommend Hannah Burnett for deputy clerk of the board.
Okay, so I'll need a motion and a second for Hannah Burnett.
I move that we accept the recommendation of Hannah Burnett for Deputy Board Clerk.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? That motion does carry. Dr. Weston, do you have a recommendation for a designee to attend meetings for the school board in your absence for the calendar year 2024?
Yes, I recommend Dr. Amanda Clay.
Okay, so I'll need a motion and a second for Dr. Amanda
I
Clay.
so move.
Yes,
Second.
okay, I move that.
No, I so move. She's the recommendation, I so move.
Okay.
And you need a second?
He seconded.
Okay.
Upon the motion, we all in favor of appointing Dr. Clay, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? And that motion does carry. And Dr. Weston, do you have a recommendation for a designee to sign all documents in your absence for the calendar year 2024?
Yes, I recommend Dr. Amanda Clay and Bonnie Golson as designees to sign all documents in my absence in 2024.
Okay, I need a motion and a second.
I move that Dr. Clay and Bonnie Golson will be designees to sign all documents in the superintendent's absence.
Second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? And at this time, in the reorganization, that we do review the code of conduct for the school board. And it says in August of 2005, recognizing that persons who hold public office have been given public trust and that the stewardship of such office demands the highest level of ethical and moral conduct, any person serving on the Dinwiddie County School Board should adhere to the following code of conduct ethics. As a member of my local school board, and this is for us to, the five of us will answer, I will at the end after I read all of these. So it says that I will have integrity in all matters and support the full development of all children and the welfare of the community in the Commonwealth and nation. And I will attend scheduled board meetings. I will come to board meetings informed concerning the issues under consideration. I will make policy decisions based on the available facts and appropriate public input. I will delegate authority for the administration of the schools to the superintendent and establish a process for the accountability of administrators. I will encourage individual board members' expression of opinion and establish an open two-way communication process with all segments of the community. and I will communicate in accordance with the board policies, public reaction, and opinion regarding board policies and school programs to the full board and the superintendent. I will bring about desired change through the legal and ethical procedures, upholding and enforcing all laws, state regulations, and court orders pertaining to the schools. I will refrain from using the board position for personal or partisan gain and avoid any conflict of interest of the appearance of impropriety. I will respect the confidentiality of the privileged information and make no individual decisions or commitments that might compromise the board administration. I will be informed about the current educational issues through individual study and participation in the appropriate programs, such as those sponsored by the State and National Boards Association. I will always remember that the foremost concern of the board is to improve for the enhancement of teaching and learning experience for all students in the public schools of Virginia. And therefore, I will always strive to demonstrate appropriate behavior, conduct as a public school board member. And I would like for the board members to answer this with I will. I will. Thank you very much. Now, we are, at this point, we are looking at the dates and times for regular school board meetings. I'm on the bottom of page 3. And do I hear a motion for the dates and times? Or are there discussions therein?
I'd like to have a discussion about that.
Okay, Mr. Brown, go ahead with your thoughts.
Yes. So one of the things that I had consistently talked about as a school board candidate before becoming a member was making sure that our schools, the progress of our schools, education, everything that we have in the community is accessible to working families in our community. I think that it's unfortunate. I shouldn't even say I think. I believe that it's unfortunate that we're on a 4 o'clock schedule for our public sessions for the school board. If you're looking at other localities in the Tri-Cities area or Central Virginia, the only one that is really close to what we have is Hopewell at 5:30. Everybody else is at 6 o'clock. That, me being a 9 to 5, typical working class person, I can't even attend these Zoom meetings if I don't use my own PTO or if I don't have a flexible schedule. So wanting more parents to be here, wanting more families, particularly wanting more students to be here, wanting this room to be flooded, I think that, we really need to push this back and really get up to par with what other localities are doing.
Other discussion?
My only concern that I have with having the meters later is that I have been advised by my eye doctor not to drive at night. I have not been, no legal clarification, just that I'm beginning to have trouble seeing when I drive at night. So I don't drive at night.
I think if there's any way, we have a really, really great supportive board. If anything, in the last meeting, I can tell, there's definitely camaraderie and unity here. So if anyone's willing to work with Dr. Pearson so that, we can make this accessible to her and accessible to working families, I think that would be a tremendous workaround for that.
Well, I would like to enter into the discussion, and I've been on the board for a while, and we have had meetings later in the evening, and I can tell you that they were not any more well attended. In fact, they're better attended at this time. But the reason for that is we have lots of students here. Once each month, we have a school that we invite, and they bring their programs to us, and it appeared to us that it was easier for the students and or the teachers for that school to attend at an earlier time. When we did it at 7, which you're saying 6, which is different, we have to do our closed meeting first, then we come in, and then there are other parts of the meeting. So if we were to start this meeting today at 7, we're talking 9 or 8:30 or 9 for students to get back. The other reason that I feel like they need to stay earlier is out of respect for our staffs. Our staffs, the principals and or department heads, some of them start work at 6:30 in the morning. And when we are not finishing till 8 or 9 o'clock at night, we are looking at 15-hour days. And I can tell you that since I was an administrator at one time, we worked 15-hour days, lots of days, and I don't want to add to that. So for me, I would support the earlier time. I do understand that some people do get off at 5 or could attend a meeting that started at 6. But I also would like to say that we do televise our meetings or broadcast our meetings, which back in here in the booth, in order to help that. But those are my reasons for wanting to keep the times as proposed. Other discussion on that matter?
This has been my eighth, ninth year going into on the board. And when I first came on, they were having meetings at 7. And oftentimes it was about 3 administrators in the audience and us.
Yeah.
And that was it. So we knew we had to do something different. And when the students start coming in, showing us what they do, the parents, and then we got more participation and more audience.
Yeah.
So I've been to some of those meetings, those places that you talked about doing programs for them through an organization, and they didn't have full rooms. They may have had it one time, but when we were there, but they didn't have full rooms either at 8 o'clock at night, unless there was a hot button issue.
Yeah, and I definitely want to push it to 7 o'clock. I mean, none of the localities, Prince George, Petersburg, Colonial Heights that I looked up, they're all 6:30. 7 o'clock is extreme. I don't think anyone wants to do that. I think we'd rather be home, with their families and whatnot. But I also, having spoken with multiple parents one-on-one before tonight's meeting and asking them what they thought about having 6 o'clock public sessions for school board meetings, they were all in full support of it. And applauded me for, even proposing that as an idea. So if there's any way that we can work around, and I'm definitely very pro-teacher, so, working with our teachers and making sure that, we keep them in mind, with the schedule and all, since you're saying, they have to be here.
Well, we have not only teachers that we have bring these students, but we also have administrators from the various schools that are attending too.
And if you don't realize, a lot of our teachers and or administrators don't live in Dinwiddie County, so they travel. A lot of them are here at 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, and then to keep them 15 hours, and they gotta drive back to Richmond, or some have come from Surrey. So that's a long drive. So we try to work with each other so we can get them home safely at night also, because it's very tiring to work 15 hours and then try to drive
Oh, absolutely.
50 miles.
Absolutely. Well, if I end up being the minority vote in that, then I would say that I would encourage everyone else to, actively work with, promoting, having the live stream for this, making sure that, parents, it's like they're in their face that, we have a link, you can attend this virtually. And then also, even talking to what the other school board members in these other localities that are doing 6 and 6:30, how is that working for you? What can Dinwiddie County do, to, again, remain on par, and then also to flood this room? I wanted to be packed with some of the same people that I talked to when I was going door to door as a candidate last year. So,
Do you have any thoughts, Mr. Walker?
I'll just personally say I'll come to whatever time the meeting is, but I think there are pros and cons to either side, and I think it's going to be a matter of compromise. And so, whatever we have to do, I'll jump in and do.
The times and dates that are listed on your sheet are, of course, in line with the second Tuesday and the fourth Tuesday, and the closed sessions and the open sessions. And so therefore, it would have to be a motion to either approve these, or a motion and a second to take a vote if someone is proposing a different.
I'll move that we accept the times that are presented, and we can see where that goes, I guess.
Okay. Second. All right, so we have a motion and a second on the times that are presented on the paper, which are 2 o'clock closed, 4 o'clock open. And so all in favor signify by saying aye to the proposed times and dates.
Aye.
Are there any opposed?
aye.
Okay, so the vote is 4-1. Okay, so we have adopted the current times and dates. And yet, I agree with what Mr. Walker says, there's pros and cons for doing it both ways. At this time, we were looking at the other boards that we serve on, which we do serve on right many. Currently, Ms. Benjamin is serving on the Code RVA Regional Board in Richmond, and therefore we need to reappoint Ms. Benjamin, or we have a nomination to replace her. Dr. Elaine Pearson has agreed to do that position. And so I would need a nomination and a second.
Madam Chair, I move that Dr. Elaine Pearson will serve on the boards of Code RVA. And take both of them, Maggie Walker at the same, or you want to do them separately?
I think you can do them together.
Okay, Code RVA and Maggie Walker.
And the reason we do that, for those of you that are in the audience, is they meet on the same day. They plan them that way, and the people serve on both of those boards, and they're close together. So we have a nomination of Dr. Elaine Pearson, and we need a second for that.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second for Dr. Elaine Pearson to serve on Maggie Walker Regional High School and Code RVA. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? The Appomattox Regional Governors Board, we also provide a representation for that. Mrs. Merritt was serving on that. It has been suggested, and she has agreed, that Mrs. Mary Benjamin take the position on the Appomattox Regional Governor Board. I need a motion and a second.
I move that we nominate Ms. Mary Benjamin as the assigned member of the Appomattox Regional Governors School.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? And myself and Mrs. Haney were serving on the Rwanti Technical Board. Mr. Walker has agreed to serve with myself. And so we do need a motion to appoint Dwayne Walker and Barbara Pittman to Rwanti Vocational Center.
Madam Chair, I move that Mr. Walker and the chair, Mrs. Barbara Pittman, serve on the Rwanda Advisory Board.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? And that motion carries. Yes.
Did we get a second on that last one?
I second.
And I will say, for the Appomattox Regional Governor Board and Rwanti and Maggie Walker, as well as Code RVA, we do list our other members as substitutes, and so if someone cannot attend, and the reason we do that is so it's legal for one of us to attend in case someone is sick or ill or out of town or something. So I just wanted you to know that up front. On the advisory boards, on page 7, the board made the following advisory board committees and appointments for its annual meeting. Those boards are listed: the Special Education Advisory Committee. Ms. Golson, do we have to adopt these separate or the group? No? All together. There is a list before you for Special Education Advisory Committee, Career and Technical Education Advisory Council, and it goes to the next page, the Gifted Advisory Board. And if you look those over, do you have any questions about those appointments? And if not, I would need a motion to accept these advisory committees and a second.
I move that we accept the advisory committees as presented.
Second.
Okay, so you have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. And board policies and regulations, we require to announce the availability of the board policy manual annually. And in addition, our policy manual is posted on the school division's website. And our manual is updated annually, and the newly adopted policies are posted in that manual. Are there any questions on that? If not, we will proceed with our regular meeting. At this point, recognitions. Dr. Weston?
Now we'll turn it over to Mr. Roberts in Sunnyside Elementary School. They've waited patiently.
How are you, Mr. Roberts? How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you for asking. Good evening, board members, Dr. Pearson, Mr. Walker, Ms. Pittman, well, not the board member, but Dr. Weston, Ms. Benjamin, and Mr. Brown. On behalf of Sunnyside Elementary School, I am the principal. My name is Davis Roberts, and I'm proud to bring with me some of our students, just a small portion of our students that came with us tonight to do a presentation for you. We hope you will enjoy it. And before we begin, I also would like to thank our parents for taking time out of their schedule at the last minute to bring our students out. So I do appreciate you for coming out tonight to support our students in our school. Okay, we have something to share with you, and I forgot the name of the presentation. Can you help me out with that? All right, what's the name of the presentation?
I don't know.
You don't remember?
There's no place like Sunnyside.
There's no place like Sunny. Thank you so much. High five. All right.
No place like Sunnyside.
There is no place like Sunnyside. It is a place to learn. We want to tell you just a few things we hope you can discern.
There's no place like Sunnyside. It is where we learn to read letters, words, sentences, and books. More practice is all we need. There is no place like Sunnyside. It is where we learn math to add, subtract, multiply, divide. It is just the beginning of our path.
There is no place like Sunnyside. It is where we grow our science brains, everything from electricity and planets to flowers and animal food chains.
There is no place like Sunnyside, where social studies comes to life, the past, the present, and the future, if only it had no strife.
There is no place like Sunnyside. We wish we had more time to leave out all the other things seem like a crime.
There is no place like Sunnyside. We want you to know we're really happy with our school, but now it's time to go.
I'm good.
There's no place like Sunnyside, no prediction for the weather. But we're glad that we were able to present to you tonight, and we hope that you enjoyed our presentation. Again, we would like to thank you for your time and your attention.
And so, Mr. Roberts, when we get about 10 inches next Tuesday, that'll be your fault.
That's fine.
We thank you.
Wait, Mr. Roberts, didn't you forget something?
No, not that I remember.
Yeah, I saw some blue cupcakes
Where?
in the cafeteria.
Why would you see blue cupcakes in the cafeteria?
For Sunnyside's 43rd birthday.
I work with a fabulous bunch of students that keep me on track and a great set of teachers and parents. Thank you for coming out tonight to see our presentation. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. And-
I just wanted to.
Oh, sure, go right ahead.
If I could just say one thing about Sunnyside, thank you so much, but I was out to visit with the staff recently and let them know that U.S. News and World Report puts out a ranking every single year about the schools, right, where they fall academically. And what they give us, they let us know like which of our schools fall in that ranking. And Sunnyside was one of our schools that fell in that ranking. And actually, Sunnyside was our #1 school that fell in the ranking in the top 40% of all schools in the state of Virginia. Pretty amazing. We call it the best kept secret in the county.
That's right.
Pretty amazing.
That's right. Well, we certainly thank you for coming, and we're proud of that fact that your building is turning 43 years old, and we're proud of the fact that you've represented your school so well. Are there any other comments from board members for Sunnyside?
You want them to stand up?
With the parents.
Parents, are you in the parents and teachers, would you please stand for us? So we can recognize them. The continuity of the staff and the willingness of the parents to help at that school is one of the reasons that you're so successful. And we do
And
appreciate
the
you.
media specialist is always in a different costume.
I know,
Every time we
she's
see her. She's a pirate.
It's a
Last time she was in
quick change
construction.
artist,
Last time I
right?
saw her, she was in construction.
Well, at this time, we would pause for just a second if the students and/or their parents and/or their teachers need to exit. But if you would love to stay here and watch the rest of the meeting, we would welcome that. Mr. Roberts, no, that does not apply to you.
He's been sick too.
Oh, he's been sick too.
Yes, Jonathan's sick.
Oh, gosh. Okay, as they finished exiting, we return to the closed session report, and we need approval of our personnel list.
You ready for me? I will move that we accept the personnel list as it has been presented to us tonight.
Second.
We have a motion and a second that we approve the personnel list. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? The motion carries. And Student Matters Report. Dr. Pearson?
Madam Chairman, I move to accept the recommendation of the administration and expel student number LT-01/24-1, finding that the student poses a threat to the health, safety, and welfare of others.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Are there any opposed?
Aye.
There are 4 to 1, Ms. Golson. And the next one, Dr. Pearson?
Madam Chairperson, I move to accept the recommendation of the administration and expel student number LT-01/24-2, finding that the student poses a threat to the health, safety, and welfare of others.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Are there any opposed?
Aye.
The vote is 4-1. Ms. Benjamin?
Madam Chair, I move that we accept the recommendation of administration and expel student number E-01/24-1.
I need a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed?
Aye.
The vote is 4-1. Ms. Golson. Ms. Benjamin?
Madam Chair, I move that we accept the recommendation of administration and expel student number E-01/24-2.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Are there any opposed?
Aye.
4-1, Ms. Golson. And Ms. Benjamin?
Madam Chair, I move that we accept the recommendation of administration and readmit student number R-01/24-1.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Are there any opposed?
Aye.
The
That's it.
4-1, 4-1, Ms. Colson. On the consent agenda, expenditure reports.
Madam Chair, I move that we accept the expenditure report as presented.
Second.
And expenditure reports, motion and second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? And minutes.
I move that we accept the minutes from the previous meeting as presented.
It's December
December the 5th, 2023,
and
December 12th, 2023.
thank you.
Anybody second? Second.
Need a second, yes. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? The motion carries. New business, Ms. Golson? We don't have any. And superintendent matters.
Yes, we're in for a real treat this evening. I'd like to ask Amani McLaughlin and Michaela Nicholson to come forward with Mr. Burke George. I said them first because I know they're, not that you're not going to be the, is it okay? But to come forward. That it's not absolutely to talk to us about the Excellence in Workforce Ready vision.
Good evening, Board.
Good evening.
Dr. Weston, Ms. Golson, Ms. Burnett. To our newest board members, my name is Burke George. I'm the coordinator of career and technical education. I actually brought students with me tonight, too. Just a little bit older, a little bit taller, still our kids. So each year in May, the Virginia School Boards Association asks for submissions to its VSBA Excellence in Workforce Readiness Award. And this award recognizes the efforts and initiatives of school districts across the Commonwealth that advance career readiness amongst their students and or throughout the community. And tonight, what we want to do is we want to bring to you our vision for our DCPS entry this year. And then what will happen is 4 months from now at the May 14th board meeting, our plan is to bring back the finished product, which you will then approve, and we will send off as our submission. So the idea for this project actually stemmed from one of our industry partners. Mr. Jorg Paul is the Director of Operations for EPT. Now, they have a location in South Chesterfield, but they are a German-based company that manufactures electronic semiconductors for the automotive industry. So their semiconductors are used by all of the large automobile manufacturers across the globe. And Jorg is part of our CTE advisory committee, and At our September CT advisory meeting, he attended and he actually saw these two young ladies present about some of the work they've been doing in DECA. And so the next day, Jorg emailed me and he said, hey, Mr. George, what do you think about having those students as a service learning project, putting together an educational video about what advanced manufacturing is? Advanced manufacturing is high skill, high wage, but just like many employers, they don't have the staffing that they need. And Jorg made the point that, a lot of adults, but students as well, don't even know what advanced manufacturing is. So the idea was, let's create an educational video, okay? Well, I took the idea to Amani and I said, hey, what do you think about working on this? And she said, sure, let me get with my secretary, Michaela. And the next day they reached out and said, we'd love to do this, but why don't we take this a step further and do an entire educational series that highlights pathways and employers in Dinwiddie County and throughout our region that we could share with students. And I said, that's a great idea. So I arranged a meeting with them, and the vision for this project came to life. About a week later, I got a Google Meeting invite from Amani that she wanted to share their trailer video that they had done for advanced manufacturing. At that point, I said, without a doubt, I have the right team working on this. At this time, I'm going to introduce to you two of DCPS's finest, who will present our vision for this project, which we believe this project can really have an impact on students at all ages. Okay, so I'm going to turn the presentation over to our current DHS DECA president and one of our school board representatives, Ms. Amani McLaughlin, and our DHS DECA secretary, Ms. Michaela Nicholson, who will present to you the vision for making careers illuminate for teens. And you can use the clicker.
Thank you, Mr. Burke, for the kind words and warm introduction. This is really a passion project for the both of us, really, and we are excited to present to you everything that we have planned, our vision for it, and we hope that you are ready for what we have in store.
Hello, everyone, and good evening. We have an exciting new project that we think could revolutionize the way teens research and learn about careers. If it wants to be friends.
So first of all, we wanted to just give you a little background on us so you can kind of get to know who we are, what we do, and you can kind of see why we want to do what we want to do.
So, for starters, me and Amani have known each other since before we knew that we known each other. We went to the same daycare and basically grew up in the school system together. We both went to Sutherland Elementary and then graduated middle school and then to high school together. We're currently in NHS. We did Junior Honor Society. Our grades are currently at a 4.3 and higher. So we're juniors, and we plan on just making more new, great, big ideas like this before we get out, and then after pursuing more things that we're involved in and being a part of things that mean the most to us. We also do soda, which if you don't know about soda, you do know about soda. That's where we're basically going to the middle schools and the elementary schools and just being a role model and showing them that you can do whatever you put your mind to.
And now we want to give you a little background behind the name. So when we first talked to Mr. Burke about this idea, we were talking about how we wanted to have these series of videos, as mentioned before, to give teens and tweens more input on what's available around them, because there are so many opportunities in Dinwiddie, and we wanted to highlight on that in a modern way, from another teenager to teenager perspective. So, we talked to one another. We were like, we have to get a name for this. We don't want to just have these videos out with no identifying name. So our acronym is MCIT, and of course that stands for Making Careers Illuminate or Come to Life for Teens and Tweens in Dinwiddie and hopefully beyond. And as far as resources go and equipment, we will need a list of all of the Career Corps learning classes from both the middle and high school, a small portable microphone, and a folder or calendar to log all of our visits.
You may be asking, what do we need from our students and staff? Well, upon permission from the school board, all we need is engagement. We need our staff to let our students know and our superintendents to let everyone know exactly what we're about, what we're trying to get done, how we're trying to achieve it, so that we can get not only parents interested, but their children as well. Some platforms that we want to reach is Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok. TikTok is a more short film version. 30 seconds most is the best way to do it. YouTube is a little bit longer clips, maybe 10-minute videos at most, just to kind of give a feel of what we're going to be talking about, whichever topic that is, and how we want to cover it. It's going to evolve like all things, but from the beginning, we kind of want to keep it simple, fun, interactive for kids, and keep it a place and in front of them in a place where they can easily find it. When you're scrolling on Instagram, the first thing that you're not thinking, oh, I'm going to be searching for a career. You're thinking, I'm just going to get some funny videos in and enjoy my evening. So Instagram is probably the most important place that we're going to tackle because we know for a fact people our age, that's where they want to be.
Mm-hmm. And we also want to basically attack all of these different platforms because we also want parents to see as well. A lot of parents are on Facebook. Dinwiddie is really, really active on Facebook and communicating with one another through Facebook. So that's another reason why we want to target that, because parents, of course, they care about their children. They care about what their children are going to do with their future. And hopefully through our videos, it can entice children to look into what their careers, so that way they're not in their senior year or graduating from their senior year and wondering what is there to do.
So that was a lot of information. So what is our overall goal? Our overall goal is to provide a source where students can get important information about careers, job opportunities from other students. We want our peers to know that there are endless opportunities in this very county that they can be a part of.
And going to our calendar, so some things have changed due to the very interesting weather. So we have our visit to EPT, that will be next Wednesday on the 17th, where we will continue advanced manufacturing and provide more detailed information on that. And then on the 31st, we're planning to have our healthcare and physical therapy trip to start our healthcare series for MCIT. So we are very excited for that.
So, you guys have heard absolutely all of the information on what we're planning to do and how we're planning to do it. Now, we want to show you what it's really going to look like in video format. Hello, this is your secretary, Michaela Nicholson.
And this is your president, Iman Hula.
Guess the technology doesn't want to be our friend today. Hello, this is your secretary, Michaela Nicholson.
And this is your president, Iman Hula.
And today, Dinwiddie DECA took a trip to Blueprint Automation
to tell
tell you exactly what advanced manufacturing is all about. So let's get into it.
It's been exactly a month since we had the privilege of visiting Blueprint Automation and EPT.
And now we are here to tell you all what we have learned and taken with us so we can inform you all exactly what advanced manufacturing is all about. So let's get into it. What would you say was your favorite part of it?
I think my favorite part was virtually being proved wrong. I really believed that it was going to be a dark, gloomy atmosphere. And I walked in, everyone was so inviting, answering questions, the students were engaged. And I think that's very important in a workplace.
I think that my favorite part too was like the overall environment of the company. You know, generally when people are working in the business, you don't really have that family aspect. Everyone just comes to work, they have coworkers, and then that's it. But you know, when we were at Blueprint Automation, like we could really tell that it was a family. You know, they talked about different events that they had outside of work, just to bond with one another and create that family aspect. And I think that that was my favorite part of just seeing and hearing about that. Because you don't hear about that a lot.
Especially when we had interviewed one of the workers and he started mentioning hiking and the hiking trip. And you never really think about when you think or apply that I'm going to be hiking with these people or I'm going to be doing cookouts with these people and enjoying family time amongst my coworkers. So I think it's very important.
I agree.
And what do you enjoy most about work?
So far, the atmosphere and all the leadership, it's like a giant family. So we work hard, we play hard, and if you need to take care of anything in your own life, the company perfectly understands.
So what led you to work here?
So I actually had a recruiter reach out to me. I had my stuff posted online. I was working at another company that does something similar on a smaller scale, and they reached out to me, and I had several interviews that brought me in, and then I had the big banner that said this would be like sitting down at a family dinner. So every single vice president and manager sat down and took part in interviewing me. It lasted 5 to 6 hours. And I know in my initial video interview, we start talking about some of the things that I do outside of work. We determined that I had the same similar abilities as the similar roles that I was previously doing. And when I mentioned mountain biking, it was kind of funny that when the VP of Operations turned his video camera to the wall, there's a huge mural of a mountain bike. And you actually can see some pictures here. He said, oh, yeah. And then I had mentioned that I was ex-military, and I used to fly helicopters in the military. He said, oh, there's the owner and such and such and such and such. There's all these people who are pilots and who have 2 different planes. He said, you'll fit right into us. So right away, it seemed like it was a good fit connection.
I think that when we were first researching about advanced manufacturing, that we really did not know what to truly expect.
I agree. I think that originally when we decided to go on this trip, we were thinking more big rooms, isolated areas, not much interaction, but everyone was so sweet, everyone was so caring, everyone was waving, and it felt like an atmosphere that people would want to be in and be around each other.
That and like she said before, you know, the workers were really nice, the environment was bright, it was not dark, it was very inviting, you know, it was very inviting.
As far as work environment, everyone seemed so engaged. As we walked by, we witnessed some workers welding various pieces together, working with computers, and even manipulating sets of data.
We even saw sparks flying from various workers because they were working on another project. And honestly, I'm not even surprised that they have another project because with the quality that we saw, it's definitely well deserved.
Speaking of well deserved, they're actually getting so much business that as we speak, a new wing is being built on.
We actually were able to capture some footage on just how big this expansion would be. So let's show you that now.
Advanced manufacturing Manufacturing is defined by manufacturing.gov as the use of innovative technologies to create existing products and the creation of new products,
including production activities that depend on information, automation, computation, software, sensing, and networking. But we define advanced manufacturing as
the process that requires teamwork and various skills centered around technological advancements. It is not just about knowing how to build or work with your hands,
but you also need to be very knowledgeable and tactful on the quality and functionality of what you are creating. It takes a very meticulous eye to really make sure that the end product of what customers get is top tier. That's so good.
Thank you. So generally that will be the format of our videos. Of course on YouTube it will be in a landscape format. But we want to basically have people view our videos and get a refreshing feeling when they look at them, to basically understand kind of the teen perspective from us actually visiting those places, and get the knowledge that they need to know about the job and to see how the workers feel, working firsthand in the job. So that's what we're planning.
And I think this really opened my eyes to, as a student, not only are we interested in what is to offer in the world, they're interested in us. They are looking for workers. They're looking for young, new, great, bright minds to demonstrate something fresh so that they can have a newer idea or maybe get broken out of their way of thinking. There's so many jobs and careers just in Dinwiddie that people think they have to go to school out of state, or they have to not start at their Rwanti that's here for them. It's a resource for them. And they go so far looking for what we already have in our community. So I think it's very important that even if this is in vain, at least we try as students to push that thought process of you don't have to leave. I know a lot of parents, they're like, there's stuff here, there's things here, but they don't use, that's not an option to them because they're so stuck in, I need to get out of Dinwiddie. I don't know what's in Dinwiddie, so I'm just gonna go somewhere else. I know Los Angeles has this, but right here we have so many resources and so many options for our students, for our staff, and for our families.
And on this slide that is presented to you, these are our handles for the different social medias. So if any parents, students, faculty, staff, board members, superintendent would like to follow and witness these pages as we grow, these are our handles. So now we are about to pass you all a handout that is just a condensed version of the information that we have presented to you all, so you can look back at it if you have any comments.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, dear.
And remember, we are MCIT, helping peers find their careers.
I told you I had the right team working on this. That's right. Very thorough, very impressive. So I wanted to add 2 or 3 quick points to what they've said. This is excellent. The second piece of this too is making sure our students, especially our middle school kids, know what the pathway is into these careers. And so that's when they mentioned course offerings here in Dinwiddie, making sure that the students know what the pathway is and what their options are starting in really 7th grade on up through their senior year. The second thing I wanted to mention is this is very important. It's interesting. I believe that things happen for a reason and people are in places for a reason. This morning I was in Richmond at the Association for Career and Technical Education conference, and one of the speakers that started the conference off this morning was Dr. Coons, the state superintendent. And honestly, the theme of her message this morning was that as districts throughout the state We have to do a better job of connecting learning with earning. And that's what this is all about. So I just thought that was really ironic this morning as I sat there. I thought about you two on this project. And, this is what this is doing. The third thing I wanted to make a point of, and this is very important, you all touched on it a little bit, a lot of students only know about careers that they see in their households. What mom or dad does, what grandma, aunt, uncle do. So there's just so many options out there, and we want to make sure that kids know what those options are. So, any questions? The board?
I thoroughly enjoyed the presentation. And I said, Mr. George, you align yourself with some successful people, so it makes your job easier. But I like when you said, the place was light, it's huge, and I think, what do you think the main thing that made the workers, the employees so happy? Because it did look like, I don't know whether because the camera was on them, but they were happy. But did you all discover what really made them happy?
Yeah, I think part of it was that a lot of people go their whole life without having a community. And that place, just walking into it for a day, you could tell that they had like an amazing community. And he was so excited about talking about hiking. He was barely even talking about his job, but it was with the people because he was excited to go there every day. When you walk in the halls, nobody was in their office. Everyone was out like speaking with one another, good morning, good morning. And no one just head straight to their office. So I think community is one of the biggest things, but loving what you do is another. They help them pursue whatever they want to do. They help teach them there. So you can come in with, he said, little to no actual experience and get taught there. And I think that builds trust, not just with the company, it builds identity. So I think part of that is really just being comfortable where you are and knowing that you're going to this place to support yourself and your family, but you love what you do.
All right, thank you so much.
I talked to Mr.
You got the right ones.
I talked to the EPT guy when he was doing a presentation at the high school one day, and what impressed me about him, not only is he's so proactive and positive, but he had a young man with him that day that had graduated from Hopewell, and the young man was working for him 3 days a week and going to classes at Bright Point 2 days a week, which EPT was paying for, and he was taking advanced manufacturing at Bright Point. So what a great opportunity to not only work and get a paycheck, but also get your training at the same time. Right. So I was very impressed with their owner. Well, thank you all. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Great job.
Okay, now Mr. George is going to stay with us, and I think Ms. Branch is going to join him, and they're going to talk to us about teachers for tomorrow.
Yes.
And how we can grow our own.
Yep. So at this point, we want to share with you a new initiative that we've been working on, myself, Ms. Branch, our Chief Human Resource Officer, along with Ms. Karan Nivens, who is our Teachers for Tomorrow teacher at the high school, which we think this program, what it really gets at is tapping into some of the talent that we have in our school long term. So, it's no secret that teacher staffing shortage is a challenge, across the nation. It's also no secret, and it's proven that the teacher has, the biggest impact on the classroom environment, So we know that staffing is an issue, and it will likely continue to be, right? The number of students graduating from teacher prep programs is on the decline, and has been, and the student population is not declining, so you have gap. So we know that we have this challenge, and we know that teachers are very, very, very important, The third thing that we know here is that we have a Teachers for Tomorrow program, and we have some very bright students walking our halls right now that at this point in their lives think that they want to enter the career of teaching. And so the whole premise behind the homegrown program is putting the structures in place to bring those kids home to teach in Dinwiddie down the road. So the program goal is to identify DHS seniors that aspire to pursue a career in education, and then put the necessary structures in place to bring them home to teach in Dinwiddie County Public Schools. I know this, as they get into their teacher prep programs, and they start their observations, and they start their student teaching. And once they become a licensed teacher, they're going to be a hot commodity. Okay. The fact of the matter is, we're competing for the same candidates, as everyone around us. Okay. And so this program is very important, in particular for Dinwiddie, I think, because we're a rural division that has neighbors within 30 miles that are suburban school districts that hire 250 students a year. Okay. So I think doing everything we can to try to bring these kids back would certainly be beneficial. So just to simplify things, the homegrown process is this: identification, who are our students; evaluation, which students do we want to engage in these cohorts; selection, and then engagement. So the identification piece, our plan is to have a student application, which we've already developed. And the application window will be January 15th to February 15th. Right now, with the help of Ms. Nivens, who works with these students closely, these are students that she's had for 2 semesters now. We've identified 5 students for our first cohort. So then, of course, we'll review applications, have an interview period. This year we have 5 students, but hopefully the goal is that it snowballs and it grows as word spreads about this initiative. Applications to be evaluated by Ms. Branch, and then our Director of Secondary Instruction and our Director of Elementary Instruction. And as we get more and more applicants, as this program grows, to schedule interviews and conduct interviews as needed.
So, as Burke mentioned, a part of the evaluation process includes us having an application that all of the interested candidates would engage in. This application would require them to answer questions about what education program they plan on entering upon graduation. They would also be required to have a written recommendation from one of their teachers at the high school. And then most importantly, I feel, is their written essay, which would be simply why they want to become a teacher, because that gives us a glimpse into their passion to become an educator, to ensure that they understand the challenges that educators face today, and then what they expect to do as far as being a part of the solution as a future educator. We are not requiring that they be accepted into a teacher prep program. It is preferred, but at least if we can tell from their acceptance into an institution of higher education that it could lead to a degree in licensure. So for example, if they're planning to go to school and their major is going to be in English, then we know that that degree in English can lead to a license with Virginia in teaching the subject or content area of English. So we will evaluate the plans of each of our applicants to ensure that it will be a fit and a match with the Virginia licensure requirements.
So the hope is to celebrate these students, and this is something that they should be very proud of, the students and their families. So as we select our students for the cohorts, what our vision is to have a day where we visit the classroom, whether it be our superintendent or some of our board members, of course, team members here at the central office, teachers. And during that visit, we'll celebrate the students and we'll present them with an invitation to our Career and Technical Education Signing Day, which is going to be held April 26th at Bright Point Community College in Chester, and then also to the May 14th school board meeting.
During our presence at Bright Point Community College, that's where we will present the letter of intent. And this is, made to be a ceremony or rites of passage, so to speak, that everyone can participate in, the student as well as their families. where they can be there at signing day and they can sign their intent to hire with us, signifying that they would like to become a teacher at Dinwiddie County Public Schools. Of course, that would all be contingent on them meeting the licensure requirements under the Virginia Department of Education, and of course, be subject to the school division having an actual vacancy in the content area that the prospective teacher would be going to school for.
And the final step in our final slide, and I think this is most important, is engagement. We have to find ways to keep these students engaged because the further they get from, graduating from Dinwiddie High School, the more influences they have, okay? And I can tell you that if a student teacher is teaching at Buckingham High School and they're doing a good job, the principal of Buckingham High School is in their ear, right? About, hey, we're going to have English opening. And so what we want to create is, an allegiance to us to where they feel like, no, my home is with Dinwiddie County Public Schools. And that's where I know I'm going to go back to. And some of the ideas we have for creating this loyalty is through inviting our homegrown cohort to our Summer Learning Institutes each summer that our teachers participate in. And of course, also, part of this will be having them participate on our substitute teaching list, which would obviously help the schools and the students that are aspiring to be teachers because they're getting classroom experience while they're on break and also tutoring. So I just think keeping these students engaged, the engagement part is really the most important piece of this. As those students get out 2, 3, 4 years from our graduation to where they can come back to us. So that is what we have. Any questions or comments would be more than happy to answer them.
I think it's a wonderful idea, and I think there are some people around the state doing this, and some people are even offering somewhat of a scholarship or amount of money or something. The only problem with that is if you give them the money and then we don't have an opening in elementary ed for them to come to, then that becomes problematic. But I think that as we move forward and work out the kinks, that we could look at trying to say to some of them who are interested in the hard-to-fill areas that we might move towards some scholarship money. Because, we've needed foreign language teachers and couldn't find them. We've needed math teachers and couldn't find them. And so that may be a good place to start.
And we've also been a part of some discussions with VCU, who has some connections with some donors where we could potentially be able to become a part of a consortium, which would be able to give us access to funding to help support their tuition and expenses for those 4 years that they're in college. Because, ideally, we'd like to be able to support them financially, as you mentioned, as well as through the engagement piece where they could come during the summers or during the winter breaks, prior to spring break, etc., to be able to get that immersive hands-on experience and component. So we absolutely agree with you, and we hope that we can get to a point that where the program could expand and actually, help to build our teacher pipeline by having those candidates from Teachers Tomorrow to be there in school, getting the financial assistance, then paying it forward by coming back into the classroom.
And some colleges have the Teacher for Tomorrow program on their campus too, I understand, where they have certain activities that they make sure they are exposed to.
Sure. How do you all plan on staying in contact with the students after they graduate, to just ensure that they come back? Because I remember seeing that you're going to have them maybe substitute, get involved during their breaks. So what's going to be the communication between them?
So I can talk a little bit, and then you can
Yeah,
talk
yeah,
as well.
sure.
But I know, from the initial application process, we'll be able to get their information as who the identified potential candidates are, and then from there we'll use that information to stay in contact with them. We wanted to present this to the board first, just from an informational standpoint, and to ensure we had your support. But beyond that, Burke and I had conversations about moving forward and speaking with Mrs. Spires, who works with our new teachers in innovation and development, to see what opportunities we may have as far as training opportunities. That could be something that our Teachers for Tomorrow candidates could participate in along with our new teachers, understanding that everything may not be applicable to them depending on where they're at within their college program or coursework, but there are some, general terms such as the classroom management, teaching techniques, things of that nature that we feel that our Teachers for Tomorrow cohort, could benefit from. So I know those were things that we were interested in pursuing.
Yeah, so during the summer, we have a learning series for our teachers, and I think inviting them, making sure they're on the email invites. Even IDCPS, IDCPS, a 2-day professional development opportunity that's just wonderful, and it's run like a professional conference. Well, that conference is done before colleges start, so why should, we can invite students to that. I think just the more we make them feel welcomed and like they're already part of our staff, they want to come back and be part of our staff full time. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Also, too, we realized that there may be some college students that maybe did not come through the Teachers for Tomorrow class, but they may have some type of connection or ties to Dinwiddie, and they may be interested in returning back to the community to teach. So we see, this program just as the launching pad, but also want to be sure that we embrace, anyone that, has a close tie or connection to Dinwiddie that wants to teach, as well as we have had at least one person that's expressed interest in wanting to teach middle school English, and that person is a sophomore or junior at this point. So that would be like about 2 years out from now that we could say that we have a candidate that would be ready to enter the classroom. So, that...
Did you say she's hired?
Okay, so maybe 2.
So what, and that's how hopefully it'll work. I mean, it's going to take us a few years to get the return, but wouldn't it be nice if we do this yearly to add an extra, 4 to 5 teachers to the pool each year that we're hiring that are coming back to us that we already knew about through this program?
Right.
So.
Wonderful.
I should already know this, but I don't. Are we in any agreements with any of the local colleges to have student teachers in our county?
Yes.
That is wonderful, because when I went to college, my county didn't. I was never going to move to Richmond. I was never going to live in Richmond. I was going to live in Waverly, where I grew up. But I student taught in Richmond. Well, it doesn't take long once you have to learn to drive up there. You just drive up there. So when I was offered a job to teach after I student taught at Hermitage High School, I said, yes, I'll take it.
Mm-hmm.
Got myself an apartment, and I didn't come back home for 10 years.
Right. And to your point, and Burke mentioned it as a part of his presentation as well, that's, how a lot of people start forming their career. It just takes, that one person to make the ask or to tap them on the shoulder. So we want to make Dinwiddie County Public Schools be one of the options that they think of first before they even, walk across the stage, so that hopefully they return.
Yes. Any questions for the presenters? Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Sounds very promising.
And lastly, Ms. Fleming is going to come forward just to provide you with an update as to where we currently stand relative to planning for fiscal year '25. We do plan to meet with you later this month to go through some things, but just wanted to provide you with an overview.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Board members, and welcome new board members. I'm going to talk, before I get into the budget, I'm going to talk a little bit about our enrollment. I usually give an enrollment update and where we stand as it relates to our budget. Our budget is based on an ADM of 4,100 students, and right now we're at 4,092 for our average daily membership. So we feel comfortable with this right now, and we're glad that our our students have started to come back and our enrollment is where it needs to be. And during the course of this conversation, I may use some terminology that you're not familiar with. But as Dr. Weston mentioned, we're going to, at our next board meeting, we're going to do a little workshop. And it's going to be a little like a Budget 101 to kind of help you learn how the state budget is developed and how that ties down to the individual school divisions, and how we work with the Virginia Department of Education to determine our funding. But tonight, I'm going to give you a brief overview of the governor's budget, which he presented in mid-December, and let you know what that means for Dinwiddie County Public Schools. So when you sat down in front of you, you had two groups of handouts. One was for the current year and says fiscal year 24 at the top, and the other has fiscal year 25 at the top. So I'd like to talk about 24 for just a second. It's the handout with the cream colored going across here at the top. That's the current year budget. So they refer to that as the caboose budget, the governor's caboose budget, because by the time we get it in December, half the year is already over. So any changes that are done in that budget are kind of critical if they are significant at this time. And if you look, what I've given you is a revenue, and this is only our school operating fund, but I've given you a copy of that and by line item. And basically overall, we're going to see a $113,000 reduction in state funding for the current year. And that is based on sales tax at this time. Now, I spent Monday and Tuesday in Richmond at the superintendent / finance director conference for the state. And what we learned there is that this budget was based on sales tax revenues that were forecasted this fall, but already the forecasted revenues are above where they're the actual revenues are above the forecasted revenues. So that's a good sign. So hopefully this really won't come to fruition, but we're going to need to make some plans to be able to compensate for that. And we'll talk more about that as well. The other sheet that I gave you is really about the FY25 budget, which we're going to spend a lot of time over the next couple months talking about. I was pleasantly surprised that when I did the calculations, according to this, based on the not changing our number of students, we're going to receive an additional $1,291,947 in state funding. And that, if you look at the second page of your handout, that's what's at the bottom. The majority of this is in the re-benchmarking and the basic aid. So you can see that's the first number at the top. It's $3.4 million. But you can see a lot of negatives down here too. We were pleased with that. Across the state, there were lots of ups and downs. So we are glad that we are one of the ups. The prediction is that the General Assembly is not going to adopt this budget like it is, and it's going to change. We do know that if you've been listening to the news, the General Assembly probably will not adopt Youngkin's tax proposal, which will create some funding that they will have to determine where it's going, and perhaps can come back to education. The governor was at the conference. He did come speak to us. And he was being very supportive of education. So hopefully, we will receive some additional funding. Dr. Coons also spoke to us, and was trying to be very supportive from the Department of Education's side. And both the chairman of the House and Senate Education Committee spoke also, and was really committed to trying to do everything they could to get funding back into the schools. hang on just a second. Other things that were in the governor's budget was the VRS rates. There is a slight decrease in VRS rates, which that's good for us because that means we pay less, so that we will have some savings there. It included a 1% bonus for employees for FY25. And in FY26, because the state does a biennial budget, so it does 2 years at one time. In FY26, it did have a 2% salary increase in there for employees. Now, the word was that the General Assembly was probably not going to accept this, and they would probably come back with a salary increase for employees, which will be good for us because we always want to give our employees a salary increase if we can. The minimum wage is set to increase next January 1st of 2025 from $12 an hour to $13.50 an hour. Currently, our lowest hourly rate, which is grade 1, step 1, is $12.85 on our scale. So obviously, we will have to increase that, and we're pretty sure this is going to go through. So at the very least, we're going to have to do some work to that and figure out how we're going to accommodate that. The really scary part is it also plans to increase to $15 an hour January 1st, 2026. Now, that could have a huge impact on our budget because that would be a huge rate increase for our hourly employees. I mean, not saying they don't deserve that at all, but going from $12.85 to $15 as the very first hourly rate on the way our scales are done could have a huge budget impact for us. So we will definitely be working on that and talking about that over the next couple months as well. Like I said, this is just kind of a cursory overview, and we're going to be going into this in lots of detail. I'm going to go over, lots of, what are they called? Abbreviations and, words we use and stuff like that for you. And of course, I'll be glad to entertain any questions you might have at this time.
So they said they were proposing for 2025 a 1%.
Yes.
Bonus.
When they were talking about a $1,000 bonus or something. but
It's a
they switched.
1% bonus.
1%.
1% bonus. I got you. Okay.
For next year. For only SOQ funded positions.
Yeah, I've seen that kills us because we have to find the money to go with the rest of them.
Yes. Yes, that is correct. And we will definitely talk about that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Questions for, about the budget at this time? Thank you.
Great.
We have lots of questions, but it's just, the information is overwhelming at this point.
Yeah.
Well, we're still going through all the budget presentations right now as well.
Right.
Oh, yeah, I did want to mention that. Next week, we're hearing the rest of our departmental budget presentations as well. So we'll be bringing information to you about those along with the rest.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. That's it.
All right, thank you. And Ms. Golson, we have no one signed up for citizens' comments and board member comments. I'll start down here on this end with you, Dr. Pearson. What we traditionally do is, you can comment on anything that happened in this board or meeting or anything else, and we'll just come down the line.
Well, first, I'd like to thank how welcoming everybody has been to those of us who are new to the board. It's going to be some adjusting in some areas. I also want to commend the high school and Mr. George for how articulate the students were in their presentation. I was most impressed. We always get so much enjoyment out of the elementary school children because they are just so proud of themselves and so proud of their school. So thank you for sharing those with us tonight. Thank you.
Mr. Walker.
I would echo what Dr. Pearson has said. For me, the highlight of this experience already is the interaction with the students. And so I think it makes these meetings a little bit more bearable to have you guys here. And everyone that I've interacted with in this building as well as at the schools, I'm proud to be a part of this community and honored to be able to serve in this capacity. I do want to publicly acknowledge and thank Dr. Weston and Ms. Pittman, because they have been wonderful to work with as far as transitioning and figuring out how all this stuff works. And I look forward to working with them as well as everybody else on this board. So thank you.
Ms. Benjamin, we're going down the line.
Okay, going down the line. I want to say good evening to everybody and Happy New Year, because I don't think I've seen most of you since I ate Christmas breakfast with you. So Happy New Year. And welcome to our new board members. Looking forward to serving with you and making Dinwiddie grow even bigger and more known, because we have been known to be a model board, and looking forward to keeping that up. And young ladies, what can I say? What can I say? Mr. George just aligned him with the best of the best. And Dr. West, he beat us to it.
He did.
So we would go use those great minds. So I just thank all of you, anybody who have any input or whatever you say with the students, for them to excel like this. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And let's work on the rest of them to bring them up. Because Mr. Gone, this is the highlight of my day. I feel good. Thank you, really wonderful.
Mr. Brown?
Well, I'll repeat that last line from Ms. Benjamin, that I feel good as well. I think this was a very productive meeting in the sense that being able to meet a lot of people. Some of you were faces when I was at Sutherland, like 15 years ago. So this is pretty exciting stuff, to be able to serve the county in a different capacity. Amani and Michaela, fantastic presentation today. I took down so many notes. One of the notes I put is that I followed you guys already on Instagram. Make sure you post stuff. I don't like following people that don't post stuff, so make sure that you post it. Make sure that you get the word out, because what you have envisioned is going to be very illuminating, and that light definitely needs to grow. I say that not only because it's a goal and it's a program that is going to have a positive impact on everyone, but also because of the two young ladies that are leading that. Be proud of who you are. I would say that, speaking from the seat at the board, I can say that, growing up, I didn't really feel like Dinwiddie was representative of who I was, and I didn't think that I was representative of Dinwiddie County. So to see two young ladies that look like you, that talk like you, that walk like you, that's exciting stuff. So I'm blown away by everything you had to say. So definitely keep it up. Reach out to me and all the other board members if you ever need anything. To everyone else with the elementary school presentation, I thoroughly enjoyed that. And I'm really, really excited for the next 4 years.
And I appreciate the new board members and their willingness to step up and serve on our board. And it is a learning curve for both you and us. And we've already crossed a lot of thresholds, and it'll get easier and more encompassing from here. Thank you, Sunnyside, for your presentation, and for the young ladies at the high school. I think that the home growing some of our own teachers and keeping in touch with them and trying to make them feel welcome and that we want them back. And what Dr. Pearson said was absolutely the most important about they go out to student teach. And I know one of my neighbors who's now teaching for us, but originally student taught in Prince George, and they hired her before she ever finished student teaching, and it took us 2-3 years to get her back. And so that student teaching element, you want your students to go out and get a different experience. You don't necessarily want them to go to Dinwiddie and then student teach in Dinwiddie and not have experiences, but you also don't want people snatching them from you as you go along. So that's very important. And there's some sort of hierarchy in the state of Virginia as which colleges send student teachers to which counties. So we really need to explore that and get our foot in that door. So thank you, Mr. George, for that presentation. And Amani.
I wanted to start by saying that I loved seeing the Sunnyside Elementary School highlights. One of my favorite parts about these meetings is seeing the different highlights from the school, because all of our schools in our county are very unique, and we're all doing something, and we're all doing different things. But of course, we all are making sure that us as kids are getting what we need to get to be able to blossom into adults, and not only just blossom into adults, but successful adults who know many different things. So it was very nice to see that in Sunnyside. I also enjoyed to learn about the homegrown program because I think that is a very good thing to have, especially because I do know some students and peers who are interested in teaching, and to have something that's right here in Dinwiddie that they can go through to pursue that, I think that's very important. And of course, I love presenting MCIT. You know, like we and Michaela have mentioned before, we have known each other for so long. So to do a project like this with her and someone who I know and someone who I also know is passionate about providing information to our peers and letting other people know there's so much that is available. It's something that really makes me happy, and like I started with, it's definitely a passion project. And I thank you all for the kind words that you said, and I'm very excited to take this further. So thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Weston.
I would just say to those of you sitting out there this evening, having had the opportunity in these last just couple of months to work with this board, I think we're in for a real treat. I think you're going to find it's going to be a great next 4 years with this board. They have a lot of passion for this work and the right heart for this work, and I think everybody brings different perspectives, but are really willing and ready to move Dinwiddie forward, and I'm very excited about that. And then to this board, I would say the reason for the success you see this evening is because we do have the right people in the right seat leading this work, because it is about the leadership happening in our schools and our departments that are making this possible every single day. I'm smart enough to know too, like Mr. George, you surround yourself with people smarter than you, and then you get out of their way, right? And so we do have some great leaders, and they're all sitting here this evening and in our schools and watching from home, and very blessed to have them here. I would say to Michaela and to Amani, I don't think you even realize what you've tapped into here, because it's going to be just a matter of time. You know, what you're starting in this moment, businesses and other school districts are going to take notice of what you're doing, because when I saw that sneak peek was bigger than a sneak peek. I was thinking I'm going to see some draft or, but it was amazing. And I don't think you realize what you've tapped into, because it is about attaching the learning to the earning. I always say the most important day is the day after graduation. And what you're going to do is spark in kids to say, if you'd have told me about advanced manufacturing, I would have said, not really. But I can think about a lot of our young people who would watch something like that and say, tell me more about that. And so I think they're going to be superintendents, they're going to be calling. I think there are going to be businesses saying, can they put together a video for my business? But I think we will be the people leading that charge. And that's something I know that you're very interested in as well, leading that charge and leading the way for the places and so in our region. So thank you for that. And thank you for Mr. George tapping into that. I can't wait to see what's going to happen there. So, and just when it comes to things like, leadership and, when it comes to all good things that happen around Dinwiddie and what you've seen tonight, I would just say there's no better place, right, to learn, to live, or to serve than Dinwiddie County. Thank you, Mr. Roberts.
Thank you so much. Are there any other comments or observations? And if not, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Madam Chair, I move that we adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? We thank you all for coming and look forward to the project.